So I graduated from UNIS in 2011 and immediately went to the University of British Columbia. And that's in Vancouver, British Columbia, and sort of on the west coast of Canada. And I started with sort of a Bachelor of Arts without having declared a major, and then ended up with sort of an honors econ degree. And right afterwards, I actually moved to London at the London School of Economics to do a Master of Science in Economics as well. And so pretty straight and traditional econ training that I've had.
Okay, I love that though. I love that you didn't go in. Did you not know what you wanted to study when you went in, or were you still open to pathways? What happened
It's
there?
it's a good question, right? In the sense that I did do IB econ while at UNIS, and so I notionally had an idea that maybe I wanted to do econ. I kind of oriented certainly my first year courses so that it would be conducive if I were to declare a major in econ later down the line. But I think the moment in which I really decided that it was the right path for me was sort of in second year, in between second and third year. UBC has a program called International Service Learning, absolutely wonderful of a program. The way I explain it is that it's volunteerism done right, in the sense that the university builds sort of long-standing relationships with different community service organizations all over, and send students there each year with the understanding that each individual students may not create a massive difference, but successively through a cohort over the long run would actually benefit the community. And so I actually managed to spend about 3 months in the summer 2012 in Bolivia, essentially engaging in both sort of work that supports the community service organization there, but also engaging in some development econ research. And that was probably when I sort of accepted the fact that, hey, this I actually enjoy doing this stuff, and maybe I should be focusing on it. Yes, and a couple of other experiences down the line as well. You know, between the summer third year and fourth year, engaged in a research assistantship. We call them RA-ship with a profit mine, and it was sort of building this simulation of eBay auctions and figuring out like how different like bidding strategies end up creating different values. And that was why I realized that I really enjoyed doing research in econ. And that's when I think I really started planning my path towards doing graduate school in econ. And I guess where I am now.
This is such a great story because what I'm hearing is maybe like in grade 10, if we imagine you're in the same position as our students right now, you kind of knew you liked econ, but it wasn't
Yeah, I
necessarily
had
your
no
pathway.
idea. I didn't even know I was going to be in the next 2 years when I graduated, where I was going to go in grade 10 picking my IB sort of classes. But I notionally sort of had a hunch that I might enjoy it, and I guess I was lucky that ended up being what I ended up doing.
And do you feel that the IB program prepared you for that, or like what you did at UNIS? Like, were you prepared to then go into UBC's uni
Yeah,
program?
I mean, absolutely, right? And I guess from just a technical perspective, going through the IB program essentially gave me 24 credits for my first year. And to give you a bit of perspective, a full year course load at UBC is about 30 credits. And so
Wow.
I basically had enough credits through my IB sort of score to skip if I wanted to, skip the first year of university pretty much. I did a number of other programs, which means that I actually ended up graduating in 5 years. I did like co-op, which is sort of a paid internship opportunity that's integrated within your degree program, and others. But the knowledge certainly, the academic knowledge that IB gave was very helpful in university. But I think more importantly, right, had I gone into university not having done econ, for example, IB economics that is, I probably would have misunderstood what economics was. I probably would have thought that it had something to do with business, it had something to do with accounting, real estate finance. And those things are completely okay subjects one to focus on, but it probably would not have been something I would have been interested in. And I certainly don't do finance. I certainly don't do real estate. And then going through IB Econ, I think gave me a good idea of what economics is and isn't, that I think allowed me to have a slightly better idea on the fact that econ might be a good path for me.
Okay, so and your master's, is that in chemistry, you said?
Yeah, it was in biological chemistry. Yeah.
So I love this. What I'm wondering is, like, do you feel like your pathway was maybe music all along, or do you feel like I'm just taking a break from music? Like,
Hmm.
talk
Yeah,
talk me through that. Like, you mentioned you wanted medicine, but was that you wanting it or someone else wanted it?
yeah, so that was definitely my expectations of what I thought I should do based on whatever expectations anyone had of me. Being in an environment where you're pressured to study and pressured to do a specific thing definitely led me down a path. But, as I sort of got older, it became less about what other people thought and more about what I thought, since I have to spend all the time with myself anyways, and people will come and go. But as long as I enjoyed what I did on a day-to-day basis, it was worth it. Music, I think, was always there for me as an escape, as an outlet. And even with music, I wanted to make music that pertained to what other people thought. But as soon as I started really doing everything for myself, it started opening up opportunities, that I didn't think were there. And as long as I was enjoying the process, I didn't want to push against it. Um, Continuing to challenge myself was always an important part. And as soon as chemistry sort of stopped becoming about the challenge and more about, falling into a routine, is when I started to realize that, maybe I need to change things up a bit. And yeah, I sort of said, you only get one shot at being 24 and deciding what you want to do on a day-to-day basis. I can eat Eggos and sustain myself for so long. So yeah, I started doing that, and music always felt like a great place for me to sort of trickle in. But and it just started working out. The more I worked at it, the more I kept consistent with it, and the more I realized, if I just go for it, and if I just really do what I want to do, it will work out. And so far, it has been. Yeah.
Actually, that's really nice to hear. I'm wondering, like, if you were thinking back to that grade 10 self, like,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of advice you might give them.
I would definitely say that there's two voices in your head. There's the one voice in your head that will say, this is what you should do. Look at what everyone else is doing. Look at what everyone else is saying, and letting that influence you. And then there's the other voice in your head that's pretty quiet at first. That's actually telling you, this is what you enjoy. This is, what you want to do. You can do this. It's not irrational. And after a while, the two voices are disproportionate, right? Like at first, in high school, it's all about what other people think. Even if you tell yourself, oh, I don't care what anyone else thinks, it always will affect you in your day-to-day life, how you speak, how you dress, what you say. And in university, that really becomes a big part of, influencing your stress and how you study and where you want to go and what you want to do. And, after a while, when you have more time to your thoughts, you sort of start finding yourself a bit more. And that's where you can really start developing where you want to go, what you want to do. And yeah, it's a great process. It's an extreme struggle. I'll definitely tell myself that in grade 10, but it's fulfilling. And as long as you don't let the bad voice in your head influence you too much, you'll end up on the right path. I could say, oh, I'm 24. I only am just into music. There are like 14-year-olds in the music industry. Or, I'm 24. I'm just tutoring people. Like if I thought what I was going to be when I was 24, I thought I would be in a lab working in a pharmaceutical company or as a doctor. But I experienced that lifestyle. I experienced the 9-to-5 research academia. I shadowed in a hospital, and I realized I didn't enjoy doing it at all, unfortunately. And I mean, there was some very fulfilling parts of it, but there was always that part of my brain that was sort of like, who are you doing this for? And definitely, I think no matter what happened, I'm in this position, even doing this interview now, I loved UNIS, and I totally want to, be part of all of these things. And, it all led to this. So I'm just grateful to be able to choose, I guess. Yeah.
Just briefly, after graduating from UNIS, I knew I wanted to become a doctor, get into medical school. So I went back to the U.S. where I was originally from, and went through undergrad, and I started applying for schools. Didn't go quite successfully, so took sort of like a side. Sort of took a different route and worked with people with disabilities or physical or mental developmental disabilities as I was applying. And then eventually found out I didn't want to do medicine in the US. So started applying abroad. And now I go to medical school here in Milan, Italy.
I was interested in sociology, which is why I chose to study it in uni. But the reality of it was I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do in terms of work later on, because it's quite an open-ended degree where, I was in this dilemma where people were saying, oh, with a sociology degree, you could do anything because, you're learning about the society, you're learning about econ somewhat, you're learning about education and how that affects how society has been formed. But then I was just kind of like, you're saying that I could become anything, but that's too broad. Like, what do I actually then become? So then I kind of spoke quite a bit to people that I know, my friends, professors, family, family friends, just to ask them, so how was it when they first made that jump into, the adult world of like work? How did they find their job and find out what is it that they wanted to do? And it was actually my mum who mentioned, because she was saying, oh, maybe try the Big Four because they'll hire people from any degree. So I was just like, well, I've got nothing to lose. And like, I don't know what is it that I want to become. So I'm quite open-minded towards anything at this point. And to be honest, like I was always a bit petrified about going into finance because much to Mr. Fairbairn's disappointment, math has never really been my strength. So I thought, if math is not my strength, then, I might struggle in the world of finance. And I didn't do a bachelor in econ or anything like that. So I thought that might be like a weakness for me. But then it was just a mindset of, well, I've got nothing to lose, just go for it and give it a go. So in second year of uni, so this was the year before I graduated, in the summer of second year of uni, I applied to do an internship with KPMG. And basically, these internships, at the end of the internship, usually there's a possibility that you'll get a training contract for after you graduate. So that was one of my tactics as well, which is I was only interested in internships that will give me a job immediately after I graduate. So then that's why I focused on the bigger firms as well, because smaller firms just don't kind of offer that. Not to mention like all the admin side of like visa sponsorship and all that. So I had to take it from like a more realistic perspective. So then I applied to KPMG, got the internship in my second year. And then by the end of that internship, I got an offer to come back to work for them after graduation. So then by the time I went into third year of uni, it was all sorted for when I graduate.
Be involved with community or communities, groups around you, near you, in your area. And I think if you don't know what you like, just start exploring, sign yourself up to new organizations, groups, because I think the key to a fun and enjoyable life is to build connections, and a lot of opportunities, they come from knowing people, connections, and yeah, building relationships.
If you could tell your grade 10 self something, what would you have wished you'd known?
Honestly, I think the most important thing is it's okay for certainly me not to know what I wanted to do. It's I wouldn't worry as much about, oh, what I'm gonna do next, where am I gonna go next, or that do I need to plan everything and every path out. And I say this as someone who's been quite lucky, right? Is that it just happens to be that that course that I took in IB that I really did enjoy and then sort of oriented myself towards ended up being exactly what I liked. But that was not necessarily the case for many others within my class. And so there was sort of 46 of us. We still keep in touch very regularly. One owns sort of a cafe now. One became a YouTuber. He's, I think, the top YouTuber in Singapore or something by this point. One is actually just learning now to be a paramedic. One is now sort of a programmer, which again was a path that he was following. One is doing research in engineering and machine learning. A whole bunch is doing all sorts of different things that they might themselves not have known by the point that they were in 10th grade. And it's completely okay to not know these things. It's okay not even to figure it out by the time you graduate. You will figure it out eventually, and it could be that it's the first thing that you end up doing. It could be the fifth thing that you ended up doing, but that doesn't actually materially change much on how much you might enjoy that entire journey of discovery or what have you. So don't worry too much about it. You certainly, your body's young, your lower back still hasn't started hurting yet. That'll come in like 10 years, trust me. But right now you don't have any of those worries, and so just enjoy your time.